Welcome to Haskell and Coffee Week 6. Um, this class is really not about learning something new per se. It's about figuring out what you want to do for your project for this class that we'll all demo on week 12. The idea of the projects is really to use what we've learned and what we will learn up to the end of the class, and make a project that you're interested in. So we'll talk a little bit about how to decide some things and what to choose from in just a moment. But first, as always, what coffee are we drinking today? It is nighttime for me, so I am not drinking any coffee, but I'm always surrounded by coffee. This morning, of course, I had lots of coffee, but no more after 4 p.m. for me nowadays. So let's talk a little bit about what makes a good project. So I think there's 4 things that we have to cover here for a Haskell project. First of all, like any other project, it has to be something you're interested in. It doesn't have to be about coffee, even though we're Haskell and Coffee here. It doesn't have to be anything in particular. It also should be something you want to tell other people about. So if you're in conversation with your friend or a family member or whomever, you'd want to tell them about what project you made. And then we want to be using something that has the functions and patterns that we've used in this class or discussed in this class. And it has to use a new module. And we'll talk about what a new module means in a little bit. So let's cover the first thing. So what are you interested in? So you should take 15 minutes and think about what interests you. You should list at least the top 5 things in order of what comes up first. So if in that 15 minutes you can't come up with 5 things, that's all right. Or if you really want to keep going and you think there's something that you're interested in that's on the tip of your tongue, but you just can't think of it, give yourself a little more time or take a break and come back and then think about it some more. Don't scratch out any of the ones that come to you first, though, because you never know, they might seem like something interesting later when you review what we're going to talk about to select the topic that you'll make your project about. And then take that list that you create and put them on Discord. And then you'll look at other people's topics. People's is misspelled, but and then you'd think, what on your list would you like to tell someone else about? So you'll pick one topic that you'd like to explain to someone else from your list of topics, and you want to try and make it one that other people haven't chosen. So you'll go back up to the Discord and see if other people have put on their list, and make sure that you don't pick one of the ones that's bolded in their list. That doesn't mean you can't pick the same one as them, but try to make it different so that when we go on the 12th week and review everyone's, maybe it's slightly different, at least than someone else who's picked a similar topic. So then you have an interesting subject matter that you'd like to talk to somebody else about. How might you use the functions that we've learned to achieve whatever goal or whatever subject you've selected? we don't have to know exactly what those functions are yet. We might think, well, I'm going to be summing up the numbers of a bunch of lists, so I'm probably going to use fold R or something like that. You don't have to know exactly, but it might help to write it down what you might think you'll need. You might not even know what the function is called yet. You might think, well, I have to do something that um, that takes in input from a uh, um, string and gives the numbers for each character. This was something uh, um, that we saw on the Discord channel. So you might have to read in characters, use strings, and output numbers. And so you might have to use the ord or toenum or some value to get numeric values for a character. So that's one thing. You might discover you need, but you wouldn't necessarily know the enum or ord functions. So you might just write out in longhand something that does this with this. And if you need help figuring out what those functions are, you might want to ask me or Matthias, or just ask it in general in the chat in the Discord. And so then you might say, well, what other types of modules could you use? So the power of Haskell, just like any modern language, is the ability to build a project that takes advantage of dependencies, right? So you can include some dependencies and use them. And we haven't really talked about sort of complex packages or projects, but in Haskell there's a simple project management schema that's called Cabal, and you'll make a project, whatever your project name is, .cabal file, but we'll do that with Cabal itself. Cabal is actually a program that was installed with GHCup, and GHCup installs a bunch of different programs. If it didn't install, we'll talk about how to install it separately, or using your current GHCup installation if Cabal didn't install it. You can check if you have it by typing Cabal into the terminal and see if it says like no input found, which is usually the error message that Cabal gives when you haven't provided any packages for it to consume. And so we'll talk more about that later. But you might want to think about what modules you could use that you might bring in as a dependency using Cabal. And one place to look for that is here in the awesome Haskell list. So awesome lists, if you've never played around with them, you'll see here the awesome banner that this one has. I also have an awesome list, the awesome computational neuroscience list, but here we're talking about awesome Haskell. And what awesome lists are lists of lists. So they might have list of algorithmic packages. You might have, okay, well, maybe I'm going to be doing some MapReduce here, or I'm going to be doing some graph analysis in my package, or I'm going to be doing some, let's see, we may have some other things. Anyway, so so maybe under algorithms, let's see if they have might have like a linear algebra package or something like that. see. Linear algebra. So there's the accelerate BLAS. BLAS is a common set of algorithms that's included in a lot of linear algebra functions. So if you look at what the accelerate BLAS package does, is it has a bunch of different algorithms and accelerates them for NVIDIA GPUs or other devices. You can learn more about what accelerate is, which is the sort of dependent of that linear algebra stuff. What accelerate does is handles multidimensional arrays so quickly. And so you might use it if you're doing, say, some machine learning something. And so we can talk about that. We can talk about ways to accomplish things at a future time, where you can ask Matthias today when you're in the class. Then you might have graphic stuff, or you might have let's see. You might have something that reads in JSON, or you might have something that spits out JSON, or you might have, let's see, something that uses a database, right? So you might have database interfaces here. So ooh, that's huge. A little bigger. So there's a bunch of things that allow you to connect with databases using Haskell, like HSQL, that allows you to use MySQL, PostgreSQL, and all the others. All right. So yep, there's a ton of things you could pick some, and this awesome list has a huge set. And here's graphical user interfaces that you can also build on. I would not say that's the easiest thing to build on, but some of the simple things you might use might be HS curses, which is an ncurses library. I don't think. So there's Brick here, which is a textual interface that's semi-graphical, and you can take a look at that one. And what it does is just create an interface that you can use your keyboard with. Just makes sort of textual boundaries for your application really simple and pretty cool looking. So those might be some of the packages you use. You just might find one that strikes up some ideas for you. So you might then, after you look through this Haskell list, go back and say, hey, maybe the sixth thing on my list instead of the top 5 things was something that seemed awesome in the awesome list. So I'll choose that one instead. And you might choose that and then make that one bold on your Discord list so that somebody else doesn't come in and claim that that one that you picked from the awesome list. So that's about it for today. Check in with Matthias if you have questions, but go through these exercises and try to come up with something, and definitely contact us or just put it out there in the Discord if you're having trouble.